Welcome to another video. Hope you are taking a chance to watch these videos. They're really important. What we were trying to do is give you an information in small chunks that you can think about and read prior to the actual training, and at the same time not overwhelm you with new information. Because I realize, being a new staff person who may or may not have experience in the prevention field in depth, or delivering content to youth in the educational or community setting can be really overwhelming. But we do want to talk about what we really need to talk about that would normally occur face to face. But instead, we have to find creative ways to express this same information due to the current health circumstance that we find ourselves in statewide and nationally. The document that you have in front of you is a state policy document. It's called the Youth Prevention Education Evidence-Based Curriculum Guide, and it was published back in 2016. We may have some minor modifications in the next financial year to share that will be shared with all programs when we have a final revised copy. And there are, of course, some revisions or some allocations being made due to the current pandemic. And again, this is not a video for me to read to you line by line, but this is really important for you to know that this document is accessible. You will receive this document as part of your training stack. And it's really important that you know that it exists because it answers some of the questions related to why we focus on certain components of youth prevention education and why we believe some of the policy decisions that's been made inside the state are really important, can lead to greater levels of effectiveness, and so forth. Again, the first page discusses information about this guide. I will let you read that. Then we begin to look at the guide by and large in terms of what the state approach is for alcohol, tobacco, and drug curriculums, what programs can be used, within our schools and communities. We have questions about using programs that's not on the pre-approved list. Can we, use programs, and how do you request consideration and so forth? In prevention practice, we make our decisions and choose program offerings based on local needs, what our data says. We want to make sure that our interventions, activities, actually match those needs identified in the data, identified within our communities, that we have really good connections. Because if we make those connections between the needs assessment to the interventions and programs we deliver in the community that's evidence-based, the chances of positive outcomes dramatically increase. We have some implementation standards about how we ask agencies and programs to implement YPE at the local level, and these standards are directly aligned with best practice, so we can increase our level of effectiveness, and audit standards as well. So again, we want to have common connections. And there's another video in this video stack that actually talks about, you may remember a chart that Adrian covered that talks about these common connections between the big pictures. What is fidelity? Amanda and Stacy, who will be leading you through the YPE online program live, will talk a lot about fidelity. It's making sure that we do everything we can to implement our programs based on how they were designed, that we implement programs based on the appropriate population that the program was designed to address. So fidelity is very, very important. We talk about adaptations and if we should adapt our programs to meet certain needs. And generally, we discourage adapting programs to meet unusual circumstances. Sometimes there's always a place and a time, but it does damage our fidelity standards. And if we change programs and use them in ways that they were not designed to be used for, we can certainly impact our outcomes and sometimes do even more harm than intended. We have standards of effectiveness for the different types of programs, and we have certainly other references of materials that can be used. I do want you to please read this document. It's really, really important. It's a resource you may want to hold on to. Again, we are in the midst of making a couple of updates to the document to make sure that it's modern and up to date, especially based on recent assessment outcomes and audit standards and so forth. But in the meantime, take time to read this. You will be glad you did. Thanks so much.